Hi, welcome to the Retro Shed. Now, Santa has just delivered, well, it wasn't Santa, it was Amazon, to be honest with you. This has just been delivered early. It's lovely. It's a nice early Christmas present for me. Now, I was going to open this, come down here and start playing, but I thought, no, it would be unfair to do that. Let's show you guys what this is all about and do a video. I was really excited about the C64 Micro, or the C64 Mini, until I discovered that it did not have a working keyboard. And for me, what's the point? There was very little point in me buying that if I had to plug another keyboard into it. This is different. This is a full-size reproduction Commodore 64 with a fully working keyboard. It's a full-size working keyboard. Now, you don't just get a Commodore 64 with this latest package, you get a joystick with it, a bit like the C64 Mini, but this one also has the ability to switch to VIC-20 mode. Let's open this lovely plastic box of goodness and see what's inside. Okay, box is open. Right, so there is the C64 in all its glory, and there's another box inside. We'll have a look at the box in a moment. This is what I'm interested in. So the C64 is covered by this very nice plastic tray. There it is. Oh, look at that. What a thing of beauty. Isn't that gorgeous? So here's the new 64 up against an old Commodore 64, or an original Commodore I should say. As you'd expect, it's exactly the same size. They're both exactly the same size. There's a slight variation in colour, but it's not that far off actually. The function keys are definitely a different colour. There's the old one and there's the new one, but I do know there were different variations of function key colour anyway, so I'm not too bothered about that. But you know what, I'm really pleased with it. It looks the part, it really does. It looks wonderful. The one thing I think is a bit of a letdown, the original badges on the Commodore have that lovely metallic embossed kind of raised feel to them. The new ones don't, they're just flat, no metallic part on them at all. I don't know, part of me might think I might actually go and buy some badges and stick them on the new one, but no, it looks wonderful. It's really cool. Let's have a look at the ports on the new one and see how it compares. The original one, as we know, has a switch, 2 joystick ports, power socket. The new one has 3 USB ports and a menu on-off button. Rear panel, we're all familiar with the original Commodore 64 and all its ports. The new one has a lot less. It has a power in, it has HDMI out, and it has another USB port. And round this side, identical. There's nothing there at all. Now, keyboard wise, the original Commodore 64 feels higher quality than the new one, but you know what, I'm glad it's got a keyboard. It's okay, it's not bad, but you know what, it's got a keyboard and I'm very happy about that. It was the only real thing that stopped me buying from the mini C64 that was released a few years ago. The fact that it didn't have a full working keyboard. This means everything to me. This means it's a Commodore 64. It's got a keyboard. I can use it for well, I can use it. So what's in the box? Well, we have a quick guide that's designed to look like the original manual. I like that. We have a power supply, which is good because a lot of these things nowadays just come with a USB cable and no power supply, so that's good. HDMI cable, USB power cable, and this rather nifty micro switch joystick, which looks remarkably similar to a Competition Pro, and it is fully micro switched. There you go. It is fully micro switched. It feels nice, looks nice. It's got some extra buttons on the bottom for various functions, probably exactly the same as the C64 Mini. What was interesting was when I was holding this, it felt smaller than the Competition Pro. There's a Competition Pro. If I put it next to a Competition Pro, you can see that it's slightly taller, because it does feel very different in the hands. It's slightly taller, but it's not as wide as a Competition Pro, but you get the idea. You can see where they got the design from for that joystick. Okay, so that's enough looking at it. Let's plug it in and see what it does. Okay, right, so it's all connected up to my LCD TV. Let's see what it does. Let's hit this power button on the side here. On the Retro Games website today, I noticed that there is a firmware upgrade for the C64, so I downloaded that and applied it. So all you need is a USB stick, format it to FAT32, download the bin file, stick it on the USB drive, on the root of the USB drive, stick it in the C64 somewhere and just go through the instructions. You basically go to the system menu, go to information, follow the instructions, and if the update file is in the right place on the USB stick, you have the option to upgrade it, and it's all automatic. It does it. It's a breeze. Absolutely brilliant design there, no messing about. I've chosen to boot it into classic Commodore 64 mode, which just, I think it's wonderful. That looks really cool, and I've configured it to look like an old CRT. I mean, it's a bit too sharp on an LCD, so I prefer that old classic CRT look. So pressing the menu button, which is that one on the far right there, gives me some options. And what I'm going to do, using the joystick, I'm going to go to Carousel Mode. And this is where you have a load of games across the bottom. There's a quick list of all the games that you actually get with it out of the box. Pause the video or slow it down if you want to read that lot. I'm just going to flick through it quickly. And you have some options here. What have we got here? This is your display menu. It gives you the option for Pixel Perfect, European 4x3, North American 4x3, and your CRT modes, which is how I like it. So I shall probably go for a European 4x3 CRT because I like that look. I think it looks proper vintage. There's buttons at the bottom there of the joystick, and you use those to cycle through the various menus. The spanner icon takes you off to the settings, and you have various options in here like computer model, and you can choose whether you want C64 or VIC-20, NTSC or PAL versions. I'm going to leave it as C64 for the time being. Boot mode, you have the option to change from the nice menu Carousel Mode or Classic. I'm going to leave mine on Classic, and all sorts of odds and ends. Legal notices, system information, that's the menu you go into if you want to upgrade the firmware or you want to see what version of firmware it's running. And you've got the option to switch to classic mode, and if you hit that, it takes you off to... See there, you've got a classic C64. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to... So I'm just going to change the mode to VIC-20 PAL and see what that looks like. And there you go. You've got a classic VIC-20 there on a Commodore 64. I love it. I really am impressed with this. It's brilliant. So let's go back to... okay, so from here, obviously, I can go into Carousel Mode and have a look at some of the games in there. You've got some absolute classics in here. And as you can hear that joystick there, that's a proper micro switch jobby, isn't it? Let's have a look at Speedball 2 by the Bitmap Brothers. So I'm used to playing this on the Amiga. I've never played it on the Commodore 64. Oh wow. That's fast. That is so fast. That's not how I remember it at all. Oh, do you know, I've never played Speedball 2 on the Commodore 64, so I wouldn't know. That is fast. That's incredibly quick, actually. So if you hit the menu key, you can exit the game and go back to the carousel menu. Let's have a look at Uridium. That's another classic game that I used to really enjoy from the C64 days. Oh, it's quick now. Can't remember if the C64 version was this quick or whether this thing is just lightning fast, but it is very fast. Now, I saw on our Facebook page earlier, somebody asked me whether you can load your own games into it. Yes, you can. I've prepared a USB stick here, FAT32, with some images on. So as soon as you plug a USB stick in, what you'll see is the icon change on the bottom of the bar there. See the USB stick that's just appeared? And if you select that, it gives you the contents of your USB stick, and that's just a standard FAT32 USB stick with some C64 ROMs on. So if I select R-Type, for example, it'll go ahead and it will load that disk image. So what I'm really curious about is what exactly is in that case. Should we open it up? Should we have a look? Be rude not to. So what's powering the C64? Well, I think this is a similar board to what powers the C64 Mini. What you've got in the middle of the board there is more than likely an ARM CPU stroke GPU, which takes care of processing and video. You've got some USB ports there. I'm not entirely sure what those chips are there, but I think there's your flash storage there. So I think that chip takes care of your flash storage. There's your ARM CPU, and I'm not sure about the rest of it, but you've just got a single board computer there which controls literally the whole thing. The rest of it is the keyboard, and I suppose that's the keyboard I/O board, and that just connects straight onto the back of the single board computer, and you've got another I/O board there with the USB ports on the bottom. So as you can see, there's very little in it at all. Most of the weight probably comes from this this steel-backed keyboard here. So not a lot in there at all. So I want to put it all back together now and have a play. So to summarise, it is nice. It's very nice indeed. It's a full-size Commodore 64 with a working keyboard. None of the hassle you get with an original vintage old C64 with overheating and recapping and messing around with tapes and stuff like that. I think this is an essential buy for anyone who loves the C64. I can't say how long the nostalgia factor is going to last playing with this thing. Probably a while, actually, because you can literally... It's much easier to set up than the original, and you get that C64 fix. And the fact that it's arrived before Christmas is fabulous. It gives me something to play with, because I'm hoping for the Spectrum Next to land sometime in January as well. So there you go. That's the C64, the full-size version. I hope you enjoyed that. I think this is brilliant, and I'm going to go and have a play now, so we'll catch you guys soon. Take care, thanks for joining me, bye bye.